Good morning and welcome to the TRISTEL PLC investor presentation. Throughout this recorded presentation, investors will be in listen-only mode. Questions are encouraged and they can be submitted at any time by the Q&A tab situated in the right-hand corner of your screen. Just simply type in your questions and press send. The company may not be in a position to answer every question it receives during the meeting itself. However, the company can review all the questions submitted today and publish responses where it is appropriate to do so. Before we begin, I'd like to submit the following poll. I'd now like to hand you over to Matt Sassoni, CEO. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning and welcome to everyone that's joined us online. It's an absolute pleasure to be presenting these record set of results this morning. I'm joined by Liz Dixon, TRISTEL's CFO, and Heidi Allard, TRISTEL's Chief Financial Controller. Let's get on with the results. Since we last updated our investors, there has been some notable changes to the board, and mainly after 31 years at the helm, having built a world-class business, Paul Sweeney, TRISTEL's former CEO, retired, and I was delighted to take over the business with such strong foundations. At the same time, another executive director, Bart Lehman, also stepped down from the board, but he remains with the business and is focused on driving forward our French business. I wanted to really pass on my thanks to Paul and to Bart for everything they've done to the business and for essentially handing over TRISTEL with such strong outlook for the business. Also as well, whilst we're on this slide, I should mention and update our investors that David Orr, who joined in 2015, is coming to the end of his 9-year tenure, and David will be stepping down from the board at the forthcoming AGM later this year. So as I said, I am absolutely delighted to have taken on the role as Chief Executive at the stage where the business is so well established with a global footprint, growing so strongly and having so many exciting commercial opportunities ahead of me. I will obviously take Q&As at the back of the presentation, at the end of the presentation, I should say, on my background and first impressions. But all I will say at this stage, whilst we're on this slide, is I have been so pleased with what I've encountered in my first 7 weeks with the business. The team I'm working with is hugely talented, very engaged and motivated and aligned to driving the business forward and the goals. The products themselves, the brands are well recognized around the world, and really greatly appreciated by our customers, and they're differentiated and innovative as well. So we've established ourselves as a market leader, and as you'll see when we talk about the opportunities ahead, they are many, great and very exciting. But let's first focus on these wonderful set of results from last year, and I'll hand over to Liz Dixon to take you through those.
Okay, thank you very much, Matt, and good morning, everybody. So I'll start with, for those of you who are new to TRISTEL, a little description of our business. We are a global infection prevention company. We focus upon healthcare, so our business is done within the hospital predominantly, and we achieve our task of infection prevention using our unique proposition, which is our proprietary chlorine dioxide formulation. And we take that formulation and we place it into 2 different product ranges, 2 different brands and 2 different areas of application. The first, under the TRISTEL brand, is used to decontaminate medical devices by hand. So the chlorine dioxide is put into foams and wipes and applied to small handheld medical devices to reprocess them between patient use in order to protect patients from hospital-acquired infections. We also take that same chemical formulation and we place it into a product range that's used to disinfect to the highest level surfaces found within the hospital. And looking at the next slide, we can see how we have multiple revenue sources within the hospital, even within those two different product ranges. So we follow the medical device that is shown here, and there's a list there of medical instruments. Our products are designed to decontaminate these devices, and they all hold the same characteristics, which are that they are semi-critical, they're non-lumened, which means there's no channel running through them, they're heat sensitive, so they can't be autoclaved, and they are considered from a regulatory perspective a Class 2 medical devices, and they're found throughout the hospital. We also use our unique chemistry to disinfect to the highest standard all the surfaces, both near the patient and also in public areas that are found within a hospital. And depending upon which type of surface it is, the task is completed by either the nursing staff or by domestic staff, and our products are designed for use by both. So our key achievements of the financial year that we're reporting upon were, first of all, as Matt alluded to, another year of outperformance. Our results, once again, were ahead of market expectations. And being Paul Swinney's, our company's founder, his final year at the helm, it's particularly fitting, I think, that this is such an excellent set of results. So we did create or perform a successful chief executive transition. Matt brings many skills to the board. He joined us on the 2nd of September and has spent a frenetic 7 weeks learning about TRISTEL, traveling around the world, meeting our sales teams, meeting our customers, and sharing his experience, particularly within the United States, with our board and with our senior team. So he's already adding value to TRISTEL. And of course, we did report within this set of results the first revenues from the United States ultrasound market, where there remains a substantial growth opportunity to TRISTEL. We've achieved those first revenues from the US from our TRISTEL ULT product, which received FDA clearance back in June 23. And those first commercial sales occurred in late 2023 and continued into the second half. And although we are stating within this set of results that the contribution from the US is slightly behind the position that we hoped we would be in, we see that as a slight deferral of revenue, but certainly not a reduction in the opportunity that we have laid out and described to our shareholders. So looking at the financial highlights, once again, the results are hitting record levels on all counts. So turnover increased by 16%, adjusted PBT, and that's adjusted for share-based payments, increased by 32%, EBITDA by 21%, EPS by 44%, and we finished the period having grown cash from 9.5 million up to 11.8 million and still hold no debt on the balance sheet. We also increased our dividend by 29% in the financial year. Just as a couple of pieces of information to hold, the ex-dividend date for this final dividend is the 28th of November, and the record date 29th of November, and we're paying an 8.28 pence final dividend. And at a £4 share price, although I see we've dipped just below today, that's more than a 3% yield, which I don't think is bad for a growth stock such as TRISTEL. Good reason to invest, I would say. And today the cash balance is sitting at 13.5 million, so we've grown since the 30th of June, which gives us the security for that progressive dividend that we are paying. Moving on to operational highlights, well, like we say, the first sales of TRISTEL ULT into the United States market has been achieved, and now that we've been selling in the US for a year, our view of the opportunity has not dimmed at all. We are continuing the North American regulatory strategy that we laid out to our investors back in June last year after our FDA approval of TRISTEL ULT. And we have now achieved a submission of TRISTEL OPH, a second indication for the US. It's been submitted to the FDA as a 510K post year end, and we're expecting an approval for that product using TRISTEL ULT as the predicate by Christmas this year. We also are pleased to report the successful completion of the UK NDR and EU NDR certifications for our surface new surface product, tank and pod. And so we finally have achieved, despite several years of frustrations, we finally achieved the ability to place those products on the market. And within the UK, our launch is well underway. And in Europe, we're now working our way through the less time-consuming local regulatory approvals that are necessary. So looking at our 10-year sales growth record, financial year 24 delivered £5.9 million of growth. This year, pricing gave us a bit of a boost, and making up roughly half of the increase that we're reporting, and volume, of course, accounted for the other half. The graph shows the half one, half two revenue split for the year. At interims, we reported half one on half one growth of 20%. And just to give the missing piece of information there, half two reported half two on half two growth of 14%. But in fact, in value terms, the year that we're reporting upon was equal in terms of half one and half two in terms of actual revenue number. And we put that down to seasonality. So the Northern Hemisphere makes up 75% of our sales, where winter buying in preparation for high levels of infection gives a real boost to the October, November, December numbers. And as a consequence, we see a strong half one because of winter buying, and we see a strong half two as a consequence of growth, that's volume growth. So looking at sales by geography, the UK has shown the highest growth year on year with an increase of 3.95 million, which is 32%. 1.1 million of that 3.95 comes from volume and 2.8 from pricing. And the pricing has come from a contract that we've entered into with the NHS. It's a 3-year contract that we expect to be extended by the NHS for another 3 years. So we took advantage of a long contract to put in a relevant inflationary increase based upon that 6-year period. So that accounts for the price increase within the UK, but seeing at least £1 million of volume growth from the market that we've been selling into for 20 plus years with this product set does demonstrate that we have not reached saturation point in our most mature market. Constantly new devices are being found within hospitals that are relevant for decontamination by our products, and the use of diagnostic devices within hospital is constantly increasing with population growth and more advanced healthcare. So it's very exciting for us to see that within even the UK we can achieve strong growth, even though we have such a high level of use of our products already. In Europe, we've continued to see decent growth as well, hitting percentages of between 8 and 16%, and we expect much more to come from our European customers. Unfortunately, Apex was a bit disappointing this year, hampered by sales team losses. So we saw a drop in we lost a few members of our Australian sales team, but we are now back to full capacity out in Australasia. And so those issues have been fully resolved, and we now expect to see growth return within Australasia. And looking at sales growth by portfolio and channel, then you can see there that medical devices grew by 5.5 million, which is an 18% increase, and surface sales grew by 3%. The other line includes carriage and also third-party products that sit neatly alongside our own infection prevention technologies, and they grew by 16% in the year. So we're growing on all levels here. And finally, of course, we're showing for the first time the Americas as a new geography, a new channel for us within using Parker Laboratories, our partner out in the US. And this is probably a relevant segue for me to hand the mic back to Matt, who can talk you through both the opportunity and the progress to date within North America.
Yes, let's focus a little bit more on North America, specifically the US market. You know, we don't need to be told how large the opportunity is in North America. And when you look and take kind of generic stats, the US medical device market represents 50% of the global opportunity. When we drill down into the numbers, we can identify 50 million ultrasound scans that require high-level disinfection annually. And it's only recently that we've been able to enter this huge opportunity. Up until this time, the market has been dominated by one of our competitors, a company called Nanosonics, who generate circa 80% of their turnover from the US market. And if you look at their most recent figures, you can see that they have a penetration of about 30,000 units installed in market, and that represents about 50% of the total market. When we analyze and look at our opportunity, we estimate that this total addressable market for high-level disinfection translates to $100 million per annum for Parker, our partner, of which we then get a 24% royalty. So it's been a long road to get us to the point of launch, and June 23 was a significant milestone when the business achieved a de novo approval from the FDA. Now, one should not underestimate how difficult this is to achieve, and the significant workload to get in a de novo, a first-in-kind approval from the US. So it's not like your standard clearance that you go through. This is something far more rigorous, and something I've been involved with previous companies, and I can tell you those previous companies actually took longer to achieve than TRISTEL did. So that was a significant sorry, the slides are just jumping. A significant milestone for the business to have done, and something that should be celebrated. As we look at the progress, the first half of our financial year 2024 was about Parker manufacturing and starting the initial commercialization of the products. And the second half of the financial year was very much getting those initial sales and developing the pipeline. You know, I am cognizant that many a UK company have failed to penetrate the US market. And in my experience, what I've done with managing US sales teams, I've been that UK business going direct with your own sales team. I've, up until very recently, have been managing living in America, living in California, and managing a sales team out there. What I can say and what I do recognize is, you know, the benefits the business has from partnering with Parker. Not only has Parker demonstrated their belief in TRISTEL by the significant investments they've made, expanding their sales team up to now 10 people, but also the Parker brand is synonymous with ultrasound. They are a well-respected brand within the ultrasound community, recognized. And what that does mean, and it gives us immediately, is that kind of recognition and trust. And we get that positive aura that comes from working with them. They have been investing significantly in the business, in their marketing activities, and on this slide, you can see some of the things that they have been doing in markets, supported by the local TRISTEL team as well. But the ultimate aim is to sort of like build up awareness as we're new to the market, and to build up that existing base of customers that can act as our testimonial. And it's been great to see case studies being written on us in urology. We have other case studies that will be published soon, which just endorses the use of TRISTEL, and as a relatively new product to the US market, it sort of increases our confidence in the customer base and our success moving forward. We have, working alongside TRISTEL Invested, we have 3 full-time employees that are based in Boston, who are helping Parker on a day-to-day basis, answering questions about product compatibility, efficacy, for example. But as Liz explained, you know, the sales success that we've had has been delayed. Our opportunity, our optimism hasn't been diminished. We feel very confident, but there has been a delay. And the reason for that is this increased bureaucracy with regards to the buying process. So I thought it'd be worthwhile putting this slide to sort of help educate, to understand what's happening in the market. And this delay that we've seen is not a surprise to me. This sales cycle that we're experiencing and the hurdles we have to overcome to get the customer to actually purchase our product is nothing unique to TRISTEL. There's nothing unique to Parker. This is just the way the US market is now. And these sales cycles that we're showing for like the hospitals, for example, on the left-hand side, of up to 18 months is the reality. That's the way of doing business. There are more internal bureaucracy. There are more committees that you have to go through. These value analysis committees can be done either before the evaluation, post the evaluation. The number of stakeholders getting involved, it's increasing. But the size of the prize and our ability to convert customers hasn't changed. It hasn't been diminished. What we're also showing on this slide, though, is there are private practices, 11,000 of them in the US, which are far easier. They've got a shorter sales cycle, but the size of the prize is smaller. So we are attacking both sets of markets, looking for those quicker wins, as well as the more significant hospital wins that will come with the future. So to sort of give you some kind of indication as to our initial success and how we are doing, we put some detail down. So let me explain the 2 charts that you have on slide 16. The table is not showing all of our opportunities. It's just a few examples of customers which we've already converted. And what we're trying to show here is our ability to get initial penetration, but what the size of the prize ahead of us is. So what we have, if we take customer A, is an initial customer. It's sort of like one hospital that started purchasing and using TRISTEL Ult, but they are part of a much wider hospital system that involves 27 hospitals and 250 clinics. So that initial per annum royalty that we're able to achieve via Parker has the ability to be far larger as we expand within our initial successes. And this comes down to what is best practice, what is Parker's sales strategy, and what we're focused on is getting this initial success. But rather than getting 1,000 small successes, what we want to do is get fewer successes, but really expand within and turn those into, you know, small thousands of dollars into hundreds of thousands of dollars. And how you do that is by getting that one customer to start using the product. Maybe at first they're using it in urology or they're using it in the operating room. Then their adoption expands into other departments. Then you have the entire hospital, which is now being converted to TRISTEL. And then from there, they are your internal advocates. They are your reference sites within the healthcare system that enables you to make significant leapfrogs in your revenues. you can go from having one hospital to whole house conversions of the rest of the healthcare system. And this is something that I have done in my past. I know this works as a strategy, and this is something that we're indicating. And when you look at our pipeline we've been able to develop, okay, with these few examples, you can already see if we were to get full penetration, that represents $700,000, circa $700,000 of royalties for us. But beyond that, Parker have a full pipeline that are either in the trial stage or have already post the trial stage where we're getting close to first purchases. So I look at TriStel's opportunity in the US with a tremendous amount of optimism. I see our ability to already get some success, and as I look to the future, I can see how our pipeline is going to really translate into fantastic royalties in the future. And then obviously, as you get the success, as you get more reference accounts, as you get more established, your sales cycle speeds up naturally, and that's what we're focused on doing. If we then turn our attention to the ophthalmology opportunity in North America, and for those of you that follow TriStel, you'll be aware that we put out an RNS recently saying that we had submitted for FDA clearance of our TriStel OPH products. But when we look at this opportunity for TriStel, it represents approximately a third with regards to high-level disinfection procedures compared to the urology, so the ultrasound. So still a very significant market and one we look to get success in the future. How are we going to do that? Well, as I said, we have made our 510(k) submission in the United States. Because we went through the de novo process, we can now use TriStel Ult as our predicate device, which means that we have a speedier path to approval. That can be a 90-day review timeframe with some questions. It could be longer, but we are targeting approval by the end of this calendar year. We have said here that our distribution channel is to be determined, and that's just simply us taking this opportunity to assess the options we have in front of us for commercial partners and decide what is the right route to market for this product. We've had this product approved in Health Canada for some time and have been getting success with a dedicated ophthalmic distributor called Innova Medical. And we're pleased to say that we now have 24 repeat users across Canada using this product. So there is lots of learning that we can take from Canada that we will apply to the US business. And as a final point, just to remind our investors, Parker Labs will be our manufacturer of this product. For the Ult product, they're our manufacturer and commercial partner, and we're assessing, as I said, our commercial options as to how we go to market with the OPH products, but Parker Labs will be our manufacturer. If we turn our attention to another significant opportunity, which is the surface disinfection, TriStel's success has been applying its novel, innovative chemistry in high profitable niches. And the surface disinfection is now becoming that attractive market because of the market dynamics and the changes that we're actually seeing. If we take, for example, NHS England, the NHS England is looking to not only address cost savings, improve clinical workflow, but has some significant goals with regards to sustainability, environmental goals. And today, they are using 30 million chlorine tablets. Chlorine is damaging to the clinical infrastructure. It is not meeting the efficacy demands of the hospitals, and they need to find an alternative to that. In the same way, NHS England is using 600 million pre-wetted plastic disinfection wipes annually, and those wipes are not fitting into their sustainability goals. So just painting the picture here using NHS England, really what I'm trying to say is our cash portfolio that we have is addressing the needs of those customers, but the opportunity is large and very exciting for us. However, that being said, I appreciate it's been a long road to get to where we are now, but now we do have our regulatory clearances, as Liz said, our UK MDR and our European MDR. We're just going through some of the local registrations, but we have the portfolio now to be successful. So why would the customer want to swap to our products? Well, it's very simple, as I said. We are giving them a product that is convenient, simple to use, but also one that is meeting their demands. It meets all their efficacy needs, it meets their environmental sustainability needs, and is allowing them to adopt a technology that is going to be transformational to what they're trying to achieve. So now is about executing on our cash portfolio. We continue to invest in the business and have been very busy on some of our product development. I know that these have been presented to you before, but we have our 3T platform, which is our IT app-based train, trace, and test tool, which really is a catalyst on our medical device sales and supporting our customers in what they need to do with regards to recording and auditing all of the steps of decontamination. We're augmenting and working on putting AI into the 3T, which will be able to do that kind of verification and to confirm that the steps have been performed correctly. And then on the color change technology, which is very exciting for us as a business, what we're really doing here is adding more value in the same way as 3T does, but this added more value. But this enables us to also upsell our existing customer base by adding this new step into their decontamination procedures. We, as you said, gained some more patents, and they went to grants and continue to invest £90,000 into the business. So, in summary, I am absolutely delighted to be Chief Executive of TRISTEL. As I said, I've been here for 7 weeks. As you can tell, I'm slightly jet lagged because I just came back from North America. So I've been with the team out there, visiting customers and working with our partner, Parker. The foundations of the business are extremely solid, as shown by our record financial results, and the outlook is the strongest it has ever been in our 30-year history. And as we've outlined in this presentation, there are many exciting opportunities ahead, and myself and the team are committed to deliver these for you.
Matt, Liz, thank you very much for your presentation. What I'll do is I'll just bring your cameras back up now. Ladies and gentlemen, please do continue to submit your questions just by using the Q&A tab, which is situated on the top right-hand corner of your screen. But just while the company take a few moments to review the questions that have been submitted today, I would like to remind you that the recording of this presentation, along with a copy of the slides and the published Q&A, can be accessed via your investor dashboard. As you can see, we have received a number of questions throughout today's presentation. And Paul, if I could hand over to you to chair the Q&A, that would be great, and I'll pick up from you at the end.
Thank you very much. We've had a few questions come through during the presentation, but also some pre-submitted questions. So why don't we start with those? First of all, Matt, how, as Chief Executive Officer, are you enjoying your new job?
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. It's been incredibly busy. I have been able to get out and visit customers, see our own team, get to learn the business. As I just said, I've just returned from North America. I was in Boston, New Jersey, and Chicago, sort of just arriving yesterday back into the country. And what I can tell you, having been around sort of like the US, but also other shows and meeting customers, our brand recognition, what the customers say about our products, is fantastic. The needs that we are addressing is great. And I feel really delighted to be part of the business, supported by a fantastic team of individuals. and so encouraged by everything I've seen and experienced in my first few weeks with the business.
Thank you. There was a question regarding a major patent that expires in 2026. What happens next?
Well, when the patent does expire, then we don't expect it to have very much impact upon the business. We view the IP that protects our technology as being multi-layered, and the patent is only one element of that. The patent itself does not contain the formulation, and the formulation is the most important thing when it comes to manufacturing the chlorine dioxide, our proprietary chlorine dioxide formulation. But that formulation is under lock and key. There's only a handful, less than 5 people who have access to it, and but the broader and more significant protections that we have come in the form of guidelines. So, for example, the Ultrasound Society within the UK, their guidelines state that chlorine dioxide in the form of a wipe or a foam is an appropriate technology to be used to decontaminate the devices that society is interested in. And there are guidelines for societies in many different clinical applications in many different countries and territories around the world. And we find ourselves, and we've worked hard to find ourselves, written into those guidelines, which creates a protection. It keeps us in and it keeps others out. In addition, we have over 2,000 material compatibility statements which have been put together by the device manufacturers. So the likes of Siemens, of Karl Storz, of GE, Philips, they have tested our products, our decontamination products, upon their devices to ensure that no damage is done to them in use. And within a hospital, because those devices are so expensive, the hospital requires those compatibility statements to be in place before that device can be used. And it would take an incredibly long time and an awful lot of cost, because we've been doing this for 30 years, for a newcomer to take their own decontamination process and replicate that level of protection that we have achieved.
There are a few questions that have come in that may be asking for forecasts, so I think you have to be obviously careful about what you say. But I think if you can give an idea, one of the questions from Terry, a shareholder, was about the market share that you're targeting in the US over the next 5 years for ultrasound. So that's one part of the question, and then the second is what's your plan to make that happen?
Okay. Right. Well, obviously, we don't give out at this stage sort of longer range market share forecast. But what I can say is, I feel, having sort of been out there talking to customers, incredibly encouraged by that. So, where are we right now? We're getting our initial successes. We're getting our penetration. We're a year behind where we wanted to be, but that's because of the the significant sales cycle that we've encountered in the level of bureaucracy. So we still remain on track of what we want to achieve, and we are focused on helping Parker and assisting them to do that with this kind of land and expand strategy, which is going to be key in getting that initial penetration, whether that be through working in the areas that we know that the hospitals are coming to us for. So let me give you an example. We've had a number of hospitals in the US reach out to us because we're meeting an unmet need that is not addressed by the trophon device. So there are certain probes which don't fit into those trophon machines, and therefore, what are they using today? They're using soaking. They're using wipes to disinfect. They know that they need to adopt a technology. I was with a hospital last week, a very well-renowned hospital, who turned around to me and said, "Where were you 2 years ago?" Yeah, 2 years ago they had just bought 10 trophon machines to address this need and expand their high-level disinfection. And they said, "Look, We needed TRISTEL 2 years ago. We are so pleased you are on market now, and I'm very pleased to tell our shareholders that that they are using TRISTEL now. So they have adopted TRISTEL. They're expanding it through their hospital, and we're getting this initial penetration, and we're able to expand from that. So the future for us in North America is incredibly encouraging, and we will get significant market share in the years to come, I'm sure.
There was a question from an investor, Hal, who asks, I think the question you've just answered, which was, what is it that gives you confidence in the US market, even if it is a slower than expected start? But it was all those elements you just discussed.
Yeah, it was all those elements I just discussed. Also reviewing the pipeline with Parker, and looking at where we've initially made the approaches, where we are in that sort of in that getting them to conversion. Everything we're seeing is giving us that confidence that we will get success.
You touched on it just earlier, and when you were discussing on slide 15 about purchasing bureaucracy.
Yes.
So we've had a few questions in terms of what that means. One of the shareholders says, we all have probably experienced at one time or another in our careers, and we understand this kind of thing might mean different things to different people. So could you just help them understand a bit better, specifically in relation to TRISTEL products, what that bureaucracy is in terms of adoption in the US market? What are the factors?
Yeah. Well, I think one of the first thing is that hospitals really have sort of like cracked down on new products coming into their facility. The days have gone in the US where a clinician would say, I want that, phone up purchasing, and they would order it straight away. So nowadays they put in a variety of different processes to control that. So as a completely new product, we are not on the hospital's system at all in any way, shape, or form. So there are the steps you have to go through in order to get into the hospital system. At the same time, each of the departments are being pressurized on cost, for example, and therefore they have their own different committees that review sort of like clinical applications for adoption of new technology. So we have to go through all these different steps. They are not uniform, so every hospital, every health system will have slightly different nuances about the way they approach it, but essentially the time it takes is what we've experienced and what Parker was experiencing. So this is something that even in my prior role working for Massimo, who in the US had sales circa $800 million and hundreds of salespeople, the length of the sales cycle was exactly the same as what we were experiencing.
Sticking on the purchasing bureaucracy, one of the questions from Maynard was looking at the sort of US sales in H1 against H2, and it looks like it dips in H2. Mm-hmm. So maybe you could explain, they were asking the question, so has bureaucracy suddenly happened? Or perhaps you can explain about the initial stocking.
So basically, it's essentially what that is that the initial stocking of the distribution chain, and then now flowing through and starting to get those initial customer orders. So what's critical and what we're working on is, you get those initials from the customer, initial success, how does that turn from them ordering 1 or 2 cases of product to then ordering 10, 20, and so on, and build that customer base up.
There's a question that I think it's in your slide, so it'll be a quick answer, but can you just quickly remind the investors of the sales-based royalty revenue you received in the US in FY24?
So it's on that slide.
Yes, it's on the geography slide. So we've got
slide 10.
Slide 10.
So on slide 10, you'll see there's an annotation, an asterisk, where we clearly identify that royalty income from North America of £75,000.
I'll stick to questions on America. And again, I appreciate it's difficult for you to give forecasts, but on slide 16, one of the investors, Hal, has asked, you talk about reasonable US royalty revenue to TRISTEL in can we use that slide 16, to give an idea of a ballpark for royalty revenue you expect in FY25?
I think the better way to measure and the ballpark to use is to say, right, where are we? We're a year behind where we wanted to be. So what the numbers that we sort of like disclose to sort of investors with regards to where we wanted to be for the year just closed, we're expecting it as we enter into this year ahead. I would sort of like say that the information we put on slide 16 was more to be indicative rather than sort of something that should be analysed in depth. What we're trying to demonstrate here is, if you take the table, for example, is just a selection of some of the business we've actually won. So it's not the entirety of what we've been successful with, but it was just a selection to try and sort of like really get across that we're able to get some initial penetration from which we are then looking to expand.
And looking at that slide, Maynard asks, in terms of the North America sales opportunity slide, it seems to imply that each hospital has the same initial entry value of 3,744. That number appears, or a multiple of it. Why are the hospitals all paying the same amount initially?
Well, so basically, the way that's worked is we've extrapolated some of the initial purchases and said, right, they're going to have this annual volume, and then the ASP is pretty consistent based on which sort of distribution partner they're purchasing the product. So what you find in the US is you'll have some rather large, significant sort of logistics distribution houses, the likes of Medline, Cardinal Health, for example. And what we're operating is on a set price. So the customers buying via Medline, they get in the same price. So you will have a sort of, that's the reason why you'll see that.
It's an average hospital.
Yes, exactly.
There was also a question regarding whether there was anything more that Parker could do. Are there any levers that Parker might have to pull to alleviate or offset this purchasing bureaucracy? Are there any strategies that you can undertake, assuming royalty incentives are set in their scope to use maybe as a master service agreement, or are you already doing that?
So there are certain sort of like techniques and best practice, and I've already met with the Parker team twice already, and been sort of laying out my experience and some what I've seen as some best practice. So let's just give a very practical example for people this morning. You're going through these different committees. You have the meeting scheduled. Sometimes it happens quarterly in some hospitals. Sometimes it's a monthly meeting. But let's say you're on the agenda for the quarterly meeting. That's your opportunity. If you do not answer all the questions, if you do not be successful there, or there's the reason for delay, you can lose 3 months, a quarter, by being sort of pushed back. So what I've been working with Parker is to say, okay, what have we experienced so far? What are the things that are coming up? Or how are we ensuring that we have the full packet of information that is being supplied to those committees to ensure that we're not having any delays and we're going through the process as smoothly as possible. The only other thing you can do is really work on having the strongest clinical champions out on the site who are championing your offering. And Parker has invested significantly in their sales team, also invested significantly in their marketing activities and getting the word out. And actually, the demand that we are seeing initially, and this pipeline we have developed, is coming from the market to us. So it's not a push from us, it's a pull from the market. And we're working with those accounts because we are meeting some of their unmet needs. When I've been talking to the customers in the US, what I can see is they are, they're using Trophon today. They have those machines there, but the machine is down the corridor. It is maybe even a floor away. And what they're doing is they're having to disconnect these expensive probes, walk them all the way down there, put them into the Trophon machine, and you go into the Trophon room, and what you see there is basically a machine, and then these numerous probes hanging up on the wall. And as you can imagine, this is extremely expensive and time-consuming for the customers. What TRISTEL is offering them is able to do disinfection at the point of care and do it in a speedy fashion that improves and makes their clinical workflows more efficient. So that's why we're getting this strong pull from the market, because there's this unmet need that we're able to address for those users.
This is a finance question. OPEX, including share-based payment charges and depreciation and amortization grew 19.5% this year,
Mhm.
above revenue growth. Do you expect this trend to reverse going forward?
Absolutely, I expect it to reverse. I think that we had a year of investment in the business, and that was on all levels. Certainly at the front end of the business with our sales teams and marketing departments, we've had a lot of growth within those areas within the US, but also in the back office areas. So, but product development, product design, R&D. They're all areas where we have invested, and we're investing for the future. We've got many years ahead of us where we want to deliver growth, and to do that we have to be well resourced. But I don't see that we will continue that level of recruitment certainly in the current financial year or in the next. So yes, that growth will definitely slow.
Thanks, Liz. Another question on price increases.
Yeah.
So obviously you had some large increases in the UK, but across the group, what's a reasonable assumption for price increases for full year 25?
Well, I think the most likely price increase that we will instigate is inflation, and we're settling down to 3-4% inflation, and that will most likely be the increase that we implement from different points in time in different countries, but in January, in March next year, we will be implementing that level of increase.
There's a question about one of your competitive technologies, a new technology. Germatech had its, well, it's not new, but it's newly approved. Germatech had its ultraviolet light disinfection machine, the Kronos, approved by the FDA.
Yeah.
Previously, you didn't seem convinced about UV being as an effective disinfectant at your interims.
Yeah.
Have your views changed on UV, and how much do you think this could disrupt US plans?
You see, what I would point back to is why the US customers are turning to TRISTEL now. And as I just explained, is that, this situation they're faced with is in the hospital. Yeah, they have this room for the trophon. They're having to disconnect the probes. They're having to walk it out. They're having to invest in more probes than they need, and these probes cost tens of thousands of dollars at a time. They're being tied up, and they're tying up clinicians and the healthcare practitioners to go and do this decontamination. That is no different whether it's a UV machine or a trophon machine. Yeah, and where we're getting success is because we are far more efficient to their clinical workflow. So, from my perspective, I don't see any increased threat from Germatech with regards to our North American ambitions. What I do see is Nanosonics having increased competition. So those customers that are looking to replace their trophon machine now have an alternative. And the classic old saying that the enemy of our enemy is our friend. But and I'm not saying Germatech is our friend, and I'm not. But what I'm trying to say is I think for us, I see little risk, and for Nanosonics, I see increased competition.
I've got questions from two investors, Philip and AJ, just about Asia and about your plans to address or sort of reintroduce growth maybe in China and Hong Kong. Seen a reduction in this area, but surely you see potential there for growth.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we definitely do, and sort of Lucy, who leads our business there, is very confident. In fact, the year to date, on a local currency perspective, they are sort of showing significant growth, so that's very encouraging. So, yeah, as we said about Australasia, we now have a full sales team in place, and the team there is really working hard. They've got their focus and their pipeline that they're looking to develop and fulfill. So, yeah, we appreciate that there are pockets that sort of less success than we had expected. But that does not take away from the key point, and that is overall, TRISTEL has sort of demonstrated record year-on-year results, and there will always be certain parts of the business which are down. But the beauty of TRISTEL is that we have such strong foundations and with such a global footprint that we can compensate for those areas should they have any weakness from a year-to-year perspective.
In fact, overcompensate, because the year is ahead. It's ahead of where we thought we were going to be. It's well ahead of last year, and that's even with a little bit of a delay in the US. So the rest of the world is really outperforming.
Yeah, absolutely.
There is a question about the background to the Australian team departures, but I think probably for confidential staff reasons, it's not something to comment on. But I just wanted
there's nothing sinister
No,
there.
that's
It's just
right.
it's just the way things happen.
Yes, maternity leave and the type.
There's a few questions on cash, your surface products. So if I could turn to those again, I appreciate about giving specific expectations are difficult, but what would your expectations be for revenue in FY25 is one of the questions that investors asked.
Well, I think what I would just say is that we have high expectations for cash. We feel very confident now. We've got this more complete range with the MDR approvals in Europe, and also we recognise it is going to be a growth driver for the business. So we're investing significantly to get that success.
A follow-up question was just regarding whether there's a drag on the profitability, because gross margins are slightly lower on cash. Is that just simply because of low volumes? Will that improve?
Yes, absolutely. So as we increase the volume of the cash products, then the gross margin will improve. Obviously, small runs result in a lower gross margin, and we expect this to be a high volume product. And as we increase those volumes, then the gross margin will increase. Looking at the gross margin as a whole, you may or may not have picked up on the fact that we have moved some of our overheads up to cost of goods this year. There's some production associated costs that now have become material, so they tip the balance and move up into cost of sales. Notwithstanding that reclassification, we expect our gross margin to remain steady or even continue to increase, because we have the offset of royalties from the US at 100% margin against the slightly lower margin cash range. So we're very comfortable that our gross margin will remain at the level that it's at.
Staying on cash, the tank 10-litre surface cleaning system is now approved and seems available for sale. Could you please give an idea of what hospitals would pay for a tank capsule equivalent to, say, 2,000 wipes, if possible? And also, how many wipes a typical UK hospital would purchase every day or month or year?
I don't think we can give you the exact pricing. That would be commercially sensitive. But what we can tell you is how much hospitals do spend. So currently, the NHS spends £20 million a year on pre-wetted wipes, and our tank system is going head-to-head with those exact pre-wetted plastic wipes. So that gives you an idea of the target for us. And NHS England is very focused upon improving its sustainability profile. They've got very aggressive targets to reduce the use of single-use plastics, and a plastic wipe is a single-use plastic, as much as a plastic straw is or a plastic cup is. And so us providing a product which meets that exact requirement of the NHS, whilst also providing a really positive economic advantage to our customers, which we will do with cash, means that we can be very optimistic about the take-up of our tank and cash range.
Question again on cash. If being used in hospitals, would it also be used to clean surfaces in kitchens in hospitals? And if so, does that mean you could expand into the food preparation market in the future?
No, I think focus is incredibly important for the business. Yeah, and that's how you get success, is when you spread yourself too thin and try and sort of focus on too many other areas. And investors will note that actually, if you look back at TRISTEL's history over a few years, what we've done is actually sort of streamlined our business from being sort of a bit more spread, and we are purely focused at the healthcare segment, and that will not change.
Liz, probably one for you. In terms of the NHS, that inflation, the price increase over the long-term agreement, can you explain how is inflation addressed in that? Was that just through that pricing?
Just through that pricing, absolutely.
Right.
So we set the price that compounded 6 years of inflation.
Okay. Other new markets, what about India as a potential market to enter?
Yeah, so sort of like, in my experience, sort of like people were to know my CV, I've had a lot of experience in going sort of the Indian and Chinese markets. That's sort of role I've done previously. So I recognise the opportunity not just of India but of other sort of like developing markets as a classified. It's probably the wrong way of classifying India as a developing market. It's a very well-established market. But that being said, yes, we are looking at geographical expansion. So it's a opportunity for us. There are opportunities close to home, close to the UK, as well as looking at India, being more successful in large markets like China, for example. So that remains opportunities for the business.
A question that I thought might come up. You have a very high proportion of institutional investors.
Mm-hmm.
Are you worried at all about the possibility that the Chancellor could remove tax advantages on the AIM market?
I think we're all worried about that. If you're investing in AIM, and I'm an investor in AIM as well, then yes, absolutely, we are all concerned about that. There isn't very much we can do about it. I think that the slowing down the fall in the share price over the course of the last month demonstrates the concern in the market. Yeah, let's all keep our fingers crossed. There's not a lot we can do.
It's also worth noting for investors that Paul Swinney was quoted in the Quoted Company Alliance's white paper that was sent to the Treasury, talking about the importance of growth capital, long-term investors in TRISTEL. But also the other thing I guess that you want to mention is that you are a business that's well funded, that has no cash requirements in terms of raising new funds.
No, absolutely, absolutely. So yes, so we're highly cash generative. We've got a significant cash balance held, and although we are returning cash to shareholders, it gives us that security over the short to medium term.
And a final question, without disclosing anything that hasn't been released in your RNS, how has the first quarter gone?
I would say the business is a growth business that continues to perform and exceed expectations, and the first quarter would be sort of like along those lines.
Great, thank you very much. Those are the questions that we've received, and if I can hand over to you, Matt, to provide a short summary of what we've just heard today.
Yes, well. So today we have announced record results. Turnover has gone up 16%. Adjusted profit before tax has gone up 32%. Adjusted EBITDA up 21%, and earnings per share up 44%. So truly fantastic results. As you can see, the business is on a very solid path. And as we outlined in our presentation, we have many exciting opportunities, whether that be geographical expansion into North America, the sort of like really consolidating and getting our regulatory approvals on our surface disinfection. So as the new Chief Executive, I'm absolutely delighted to have joined the team and will be working hard to deliver on the results ahead.
Matt, Liz, thank you very much for updating investors today. Could I please ask investors not to close this session, as you know, be automatically redirected to provide your feedback in order that the management team can better understand your views and expectations. This will only take a few moments to complete, but I'm sure will be greatly valued by the company. On behalf of the management team of TRISTEL PLC, we'd like to thank you for attending today's presentation, and good afternoon to you all.